Claire Thompson gripped the wheels of her chair, her knuckles white as she tried to steady her breathing. She'd heard it all before, the whispers, the jokes, the sidelong glances, but something about today felt different. Maybe it was the way her stomach twisted into knots as she sat outside the break room, or maybe it was simply that after 3 years at Meridian Marketing, she'd finally reached her limit. I don't even know why we bother giving Claire any real tasks. Her boss Samantha's voice carried through the half-open door. She's a liability. A male voice, probably Greg from accounting, chuckled in response. Well, at least she makes us look good for the diversity quota. Claire closed her eyes. The words shouldn't hurt anymore. She should be used to them by now. But they did hurt, and the pain was as fresh as the first day she'd realized her colleagues saw her wheelchair before they saw her marketing degree or her award-winning campaigns. She wheeled herself away from the break room, deciding that coffee wasn't worth the humiliation. As she moved down the hallway toward her desk, she caught sight of the clock, 9:17 a.m. on a Monday morning. The week was just beginning, and she already felt exhausted. Her desk sat in the corner of the open office plan, partially hidden behind a tall ficus plant that Samantha had insisted would brighten up the space. In reality, it just made Claire feel more isolated, as if the company was trying to hide their disabled employee from view. Claire powered up her computer and opened her email. 37 new messages since Friday, most of them requests for her to look over campaigns that her colleagues would later take credit for. She was good at her job, exceptionally good. But in the 3 years she'd worked at Meridian, she'd received exactly 0 promotions and 1 measly pay raise that barely kept pace with inflation. "Morning, Claire." Mark Sanders strolled past her desk, coffee in hand. His smile never reached his eyes. "Need me to grab you anything? Coffee? Donut? Wheelchair oil?" His joke hung in the air between them. Claire forced a tight smile. "I'm good. Thanks." The morning dragged on as Claire worked through her emails, making edits to a campaign proposal that had been dumped on her desk at the last minute. The company was pitching to a major sportswear brand, and the original concepts were uninspired at best. Claire had quietly transformed them into something special, something that spoke to athletes of all abilities. She knew her ideas were good, great even, but she also knew that when Samantha presented them to the client next week, Claire's name wouldn't be mentioned. At noon, her colleagues began filing out for lunch, chatting and laughing together as they headed for the elevator. No one asked Claire if she wanted to join them. No one ever did. She pulled her lunch from her bag, a simple sandwich and an apple, and ate at her desk while scrolling through job listings on her phone. It had become a daily ritual, one that gave her a small sense of control. She'd applied to a few positions over the past months, but fear kept her from pursuing them more aggressively. What if other companies were just as unwelcoming? What if Meridian was as good as it got for someone like her? The afternoon staff meeting was scheduled for 2:00 p.m. Claire dreaded these meetings more than any other part of her job. Samantha always made her sit at the far end of the table, where the conference room narrowed, and there wasn't quite enough space for her wheelchair. Today was no different. "Squeeze in, everyone," Samantha announced as the team filed in. She wore a crisp navy blazer and had her blonde hair pulled back in a tight ponytail. "We've got a lot to cover." Claire maneuvered her wheelchair into the cramped space, accidentally bumping against Mark's chair as she did so. "Careful there, Roadrunner," he muttered, just loud enough for those nearby to hear. Someone snickered. Samantha began the meeting by discussing the sportswear pitch. The client wants something fresh, something that speaks to their brand values of excellence and determination. Claire had spent all morning refining those exact concepts, but she stayed quiet as Samantha continued. "Mark, I want you to lead on this one. Your background in sports marketing is exactly what we need." Mark nodded, a self-satisfied smile spreading across his face. "Happy to take it on. I've actually been working on some ideas that I think will knock their socks off." Claire's stomach dropped. She'd just spent hours improving the pitch, and now Mark, who hadn't contributed a single idea, was being handed the project. "Claire," Samantha turned to her, "I need you to help Mark with the research. Pull some demographic data. Nothing too complex." "Actually," Claire found herself saying, surprising even herself, "I've already done some work on this pitch. I think we could approach it from a more inclusive angle, focusing on athletes of all abilities." "That's not really what the client is looking for," Samantha cut her off with a dismissive wave. "They want aspirational, not inspirational." The way she said the word made it clear what she thought of Claire's ideas. The meeting continued, with projects being assigned and deadlines discussed. Claire's contributions were either ignored or dismissed, and by the time the meeting ended, her resolve to stay quiet had completely crumbled. As everyone filed out of the conference room, Claire stayed behind, waiting until only Samantha remained. "Can I speak with you for a moment?" Claire asked, her voice steadier than she felt. Samantha glanced at her watch. "Make it quick. I have a call in 10 minutes. "I've been working here for 3 years," Claire began. "In that time, I've contributed to every major campaign, often doing the bulk of the creative work. But I've never been given proper credit, let alone considered for advancement." Samantha's expression hardened. "Claire, this really isn't the time for—" "When is the time then?" Claire interrupted, surprising them both. "I'm tired of being treated like I'm invisible, or worse, like I'm a burden. I have a master's degree in marketing. I won the Clio Award for my work before joining Meridian. Yet you have me pulling demographic data while Mark, who can barely put together a coherent presentation, leads our biggest pitch of the year." Samantha crossed her arms. "Your attitude isn't helping your case, Claire. We've made accommodations for you. We've been patient. But this is a fast-paced environment, and sometimes you just can't keep up." The words stung, but Claire refused to back down. "My disability doesn't affect my brain or my creativity. The only thing holding me back is the way I'm treated here. If you're unhappy, perhaps Meridian isn't the right fit for you," Samantha said coolly. "We need team players, not people who make excuses for their limitations." Claire felt a surge of anger. "My only limitation is working for someone who can't see past her own prejudice." Samantha's eyes widened, then narrowed. "I think we're done here. And Claire? I'll be watching your performance very closely from now on." The threat was clear. Claire had just made an enemy of her boss, and they both knew it. She wheeled herself back to her desk, her heart pounding. What had she done? She needed this job, as toxic as it was. She had bills to pay, a mortgage to help with. Andrew, her husband, made good money with his business ventures, but Claire had always insisted on contributing equally to their household. Her independence mattered to her. As she gathered her things at the end of the day, Claire's phone buzzed with a text from Andrew. "Just landed a huge deal. Taking you to dinner tonight to celebrate. Love you." She smiled despite herself. Andrew had always been her rock, her biggest supporter. She hadn't told him how bad things had gotten at work. He had his own stresses running his business, and Claire didn't want to burden him with her problems. But maybe it was time to let him in. Maybe it was time to stop fighting this battle alone. As Claire left the office building, she noticed Mark standing near the entrance, smoking a cigarette. He stepped directly into her path, forcing her to stop. "Heard you had a little chat with Samantha," he said, blowing smoke in her direction. "Word of advice? Know your place. Makes life easier for everyone." Claire looked up at him, at his smug expression, at the casual cruelty in his eyes. Something inside her shifted. 3 years of taking it, of smiling through the pain, of pretending it didn't matter. And for what? So she could be relegated to pulling demographic data while people like Mark took credit for her work. "My place," she said slowly, "is not what you or Samantha think it is. And you're about to find that out." She wheeled around him and headed for the parking lot. For the first time in months, she felt something other than resignation or fear. She felt resolve. Something had to change, and if no one else was going to make it happen, then she would have to do it herself. As she transferred herself into her car, Claire made a decision. Tonight, she would tell Andrew everything, and tomorrow she would start fighting back. Because Claire Thompson was many things: a marketer, a wife, a woman in a wheelchair. But she was not, and would never be, a victim. Claire sat across from Andrew at their favorite restaurant, a small Italian place with checkered tablecloths and candles in wine bottles. The warm glow of the lighting made Andrew's dark hair shine and highlighted the concern in his eyes as Claire finally told him everything. They said what? Andrew put down his fork, his dinner forgotten. And this has been going on for 3 years? Claire nodded, pushing her pasta around her plate. I didn't want to worry you. You have your own business to run, and I thought I could handle it myself. Andrew reached across the table and took her hand. Claire, we're partners. Your problems are my problems. You should have told me sooner. I know, she sighed. I wanted to prove I could do it on my own, that I didn't need to be rescued. It's not about being rescued, Andrew said firmly. It's about having support. Everyone needs that. The waiter came by to refill their water glasses, and they fell silent until he moved away. The thing is, Claire continued, I'm good at my job. Really good. But no matter what I do, they never see me as anything but the woman in the wheelchair. It's like my disability cancels out everything else about me. Andrew's jaw tightened. That's discrimination, Claire. It's illegal. It's also hard to prove, she countered. They're careful. They never say anything directly discriminatory where it could be documented. It's all in the little things. The assignments I don't get, the meetings where my ideas are ignored, the office layout that makes it hard for me to navigate. So what are you going to do? Claire looked into her husband's eyes and found strength there. I'm going to stop hiding, stop accepting it. I'm going to demand the respect I deserve. Andrew smiled. That's my girl. And I have an idea that might help. The next morning, Claire arrived at the office with a new sense of purpose. She had dressed with special care, a crisp blue blouse that matched her eyes, black pants, and a silver necklace Andrew had given her for their anniversary. Her dark hair was pulled back in a neat bun, and she wore just enough makeup to brighten her naturally pale skin. As she wheeled through the office, she noticed a few people glancing her way, then quickly looking down. Word of her confrontation with Samantha had obviously spread. Mark was already at his desk, talking loudly on the phone about the sportswear pitch. Yes, I've got some great concepts in the works, very cutting-edge stuff. He caught Claire's eye and smirked. Claire turned away, focusing on her computer. She had an email from Samantha waiting for her. Claire, please send me your notes on the demographic research for the Apex sportswear pitch by noon today. Mark needs them for his presentation. Samantha Claire took a deep breath. This was it. Her first test. She had 2 choices. She could do what she always did and compile the research that Mark would take credit for, or she could stand her ground. She began typing. Samantha, I've already completed a full campaign concept for Apex, which includes the demographic research as well as creative direction that I believe would appeal to their target market. I've attached it to this email. If Mark would like to use my work, I'd be happy to collaborate with him, with appropriate credit given. Best, Claire. Her finger hovered over the send button. Was she really going to do this? She thought of Andrew's words from the night before. You have nothing to lose by standing up for yourself. She clicked send. Within minutes, Samantha appeared at her desk, her face a careful mask of professionalism that didn't quite hide her anger. Claire, can I see you in my office? Claire followed Samantha to her glass-walled office, aware of the eyes watching her from around the floor. Close the door, Samantha said, settling behind her desk. Claire did so, then positioned her wheelchair across from Samantha. I don't appreciate your tone in that email, Samantha began. I gave you a clear task, and I expect you to complete it without conditions. I've already completed much more than what you asked for, Claire replied, keeping her voice steady. "I'm just asking that my work be acknowledged." Samantha leaned forward. "This is exactly what I was talking about yesterday. Your attitude is becoming a problem. You were hired to support the team, not to demand special treatment." "Asking for credit for my work isn't special treatment," Claire countered. "It's basic professional respect." "Look," Samantha's voice dropped to a harsh whisper. "I don't know what's gotten into you lately, but this ends now. You will do the work assigned to you, or we'll need to discuss your future at Meridian." Claire felt a chill run down her spine, but she refused to be intimidated. "Are you threatening to fire me because I asked for credit for my work?" "I'm suggesting that your attitude makes you a poor fit for our team culture." "I see," Claire nodded slowly. "And would that be the same team culture that allows Mark to make jokes about wheelchair oil? Or the one where I'm excluded from team lunches? Or perhaps the culture where my ideas are stolen and given to others?" Samantha's face flushed. "That's enough, Claire. Send Mark the research by noon, as requested." She stood up, signaling that the conversation was over. Claire didn't move. "And if I don't, then don't bother coming in tomorrow." The threat hung in the air between them. Claire held Samantha's gaze for a long moment, then turned her wheelchair and left the office without another word. Back at her desk, Claire's hands shook as she tried to focus on her screen. She had until noon, 2 hours, to decide whether to back down or potentially lose her job. Her phone buzzed with a text from Andrew. "Just confirmed everything for tomorrow. You ready?" Claire smiled despite her anxiety. "Ready as I'll ever be. Things are heating up here. Stay strong. Love you." She put her phone away and opened a new document. If these might be her last hours at Meridian, she wasn't going to spend them pulling demographic data for Mark. Instead, she began typing up a formal complaint about the workplace discrimination she had experienced, documenting as many specific incidents as she could remember. At 11:55, her email pinged with a message from Mark. "Where's that research? Samantha says you're being difficult. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." Claire ignored it. At noon exactly, Samantha emerged from her office and walked directly to Claire's desk. "The research?" she demanded, loud enough for nearby colleagues to hear. "I haven't done it," Claire replied calmly. "I've been working on something else." Samantha's eyes narrowed. "My office. Now." As Claire followed Samantha back to her office, she caught sight of Diane, a senior graphic designer who had always been kind to her, watching with a concerned expression. This time, Samantha didn't bother asking Claire to close the door. "This is insubordination, Claire. I gave you a direct instruction and you deliberately disobeyed it." "I chose to prioritize other work," Claire corrected her. "I believe that's within my rights as an employee." "Not when I specifically tell you what to prioritize." Samantha's voice was rising. "I don't know what game you're playing, but it ends now. I want you to gather your things and leave. You're suspended without pay, effective immediately. HR will contact you about next steps." Claire had expected this, but it still felt like a punch to the stomach. On what grounds? Insubordination, failure to complete assigned tasks, creating a hostile work environment. Claire couldn't help but laugh at the last one. "That's rich, coming from you." "I've tolerated your attitude and your limitations for 3 years," Samantha hissed, leaning closer. "Don't push me any further." "My limitations?" Claire repeated, her voice steady. "Let's be clear, Samantha. My disability has never limited my ability to do my job. Your prejudice has." "Get out!" Samantha pointed to the door. "Security will escort you if necessary." Claire turned her wheelchair around. "That won't be necessary. I know my way out." With as much dignity as she could muster, Claire returned to her desk and began packing her personal items into her bag. The office had gone quiet, everyone pretending to work while watching the drama unfold. Mark walked past, a smug smile on his face. "Tough break," he said, not sounding sorry at all. Claire didn't respond. She finished gathering her things, then wheeled toward the elevator. As she passed Diane's desk, The older woman stood up and touched her arm. "This isn't right," Diane whispered. "What she's doing to you." Claire gave her a small smile. "Thank you." In the elevator, alone at last, Claire let out a long breath. She had just been suspended, possibly on the way to being fired. She should be panicking. Instead, she felt strangely calm. The worst had happened, and she was still standing, or sitting as it were. Her phone buzzed again as she reached the lobby. "How did it go?" Andrew asked. "I've been suspended, probably getting fired." There was a pause then. "Their mistake. We moved to plan B. Come to my office. On my way." Outside, the spring sun was shining. Claire took a moment to tilt her face up to it, feeling its warmth. For the first time in years, despite everything that had just happened, she felt free. She was done being invisible. Done being the quiet woman in the wheelchair who took whatever scraps they threw her way. Tomorrow, everything would change. Because Andrew's company, Thompson Ventures, was about to announce its acquisition of a controlling stake in Meridian Marketing. And Claire's tormentors had no idea what was coming. Andrew's office was located in a sleek building downtown, a 20-story glass tower that sparkled in the midday sun. Claire made her way through the lobby, where the security guard greeted her by name. "Good afternoon, Mrs. Thompson," he said with a warm smile. "Mr. Thompson said to send you right up." Unlike at Meridian, where Claire often struggled with heavy doors and tight spaces, Andrew's building was fully accessible. The wide elevators, smooth floors, and automatic doors made it easy for her to navigate independently. When she reached the top floor, Andrew's assistant, Jenny, was waiting for her. "He's just wrapping up a call," Jenny said, leading Claire to Andrew's office. "Can I get you anything? Water? Coffee?" "Water would be great, thanks," Claire replied, still getting used to being treated with such consideration. Andrew's office had a wall of windows that overlooked the city. As Claire wheeled in, he was just hanging up the phone. His face broke into a smile when he saw her. "There she is," he said, coming around his desk to kiss her cheek. "My brave girl." Claire couldn't help but smile back, despite the stress of the morning. "I don't feel very brave. I just got suspended, remember?" Andrew sat on the edge of his desk. Getting fired for standing up for yourself is nothing to be ashamed of. In fact, I'd say it proves just how toxic that place really is. Jenny arrived with Claire's water, then quietly left, closing the door behind her. So, Claire took a sip of water. "What exactly is Plan B? You mentioned something about acquiring Meridian." Andrew nodded, his expression turning more serious. "I've been looking into it for a while now, ever since you first mentioned how unhappy you were there. Meridian has a solid client list, but poor management. The board members are looking to sell, and I made them an offer they couldn't refuse." "But why didn't you tell me?" Claire asked, feeling a mix of surprise and confusion. "I wanted to wait until the deal was final," Andrew explained. "I know how important your independence is to you. I was worried you might see it as me interfering in your career." Claire turned her water glass in her hands, thinking. "I'm not sure how I feel about this. It seems like you're swooping in to rescue me, exactly what I didn't want." Andrew knelt beside her wheelchair so they were at eye level. "Claire, this isn't just about you. It's a smart business move. Meridian has potential, but Samantha's leadership is running it into the ground. The acquisition makes sense financially." He paused. "But yes, the timing was influenced by what you've been going through. I couldn't stand by and watch them mistreat you anymore." Claire met his gaze. "So what happens now?" "The paperwork was finalized yesterday. The announcement goes out tomorrow morning. By noon, I'll be meeting with the staff at Meridian to discuss the transition." Andrew's eyes sparkled with excitement. "And I'd like you to be there with me." Claire's eyes widened. "You want me to be there? Won't that look like—" "Like what? Like a qualified marketing professional attending a business meeting? Because that's exactly what it will be." Andrew stood up. I'm not suggesting you come as my wife, Claire. I'm suggesting you come as a consultant who knows the company inside and out. Claire couldn't help but imagine the look on Samantha's face when she walked, or rather wheeled, back into the office with Andrew. It was tempting, but also frightening. I don't know, she hesitated. Wouldn't that be petty? It's not petty to claim your space at the table, Claire. You've earned it. Claire took a deep breath. Okay, I'll be there. Andrew grinned. That's my girl. They spent the rest of the afternoon going over the details of the acquisition. Andrew explained how he planned to restructure the company, bringing in new leadership while retaining most of the current staff. What about Samantha? Claire couldn't help asking. That depends, Andrew said carefully. If she can adapt to the new direction, there might be a place for her. If not, he shrugged. That will be her choice. And Mark? Again, it's about who can contribute positively to the company culture we want to build. A culture where talent and hard work are valued, regardless of physical ability or anything else. Claire nodded, feeling a mix of emotions she couldn't quite sort through. Relief, anxiety, hope, and just a touch of satisfaction, all swirled together. As they were getting ready to leave, Claire's phone rang. She didn't recognize the number, but answered anyway. Hello? Claire? It's Diane from Meridian. Claire exchanged a surprised look with Andrew. Hi, Diane. What can I do for you? I heard what happened today, Diane said, her voice low as if she was trying not to be overheard. It's not right, what Samantha did. I wanted to check if you're okay. I'm managing, Claire replied, touched by the unexpected concern. Thanks for asking. There's something else, Diane continued. Something you should know. After you left, Samantha called a meeting. She told everyone you'd been let go for performance issues and warned us not to contact you. Claire's heart sank. That's not surprising. No, but what happened next might be. Several of us spoke up. Me, Joe from IT, even Lisa from accounting. We told Samantha we'd seen how she treated you, and we didn't believe her story. Claire was speechless. She'd always felt so alone at Meridian, like no one noticed or cared about what was happening to her. You weren't the only one she's mistreated, Diane continued. Just the most obvious target. Some of us have been documenting her behavior for months. We were building a case to take to HR, but after today, well, we're speeding things up. Diane, I don't know what to say. I had no idea. You shouldn't have had to fight this battle alone, Diane said firmly. I'm sorry it took us so long to speak up. After thanking Diane and ending the call, Claire relayed the conversation to Andrew. Well, he said, looking pleased, it seems the winds of change were already blowing at Meridian, even without our intervention. That evening, as Claire and Andrew prepared dinner together in their comfortable suburban home, Claire found herself feeling more hopeful than she had in years. The suspension from Meridian, which should have been devastating, instead felt like the first step towards something better. You know, she said as she chopped vegetables while Andrew stirred a pot on the stove, I've been thinking about what happens after tomorrow. What do you mean? Andrew asked. Well, assuming the acquisition goes through as planned, what role will I play? I don't want special treatment just because I'm married to the new owner. Andrew turned down the heat on the stove and faced her. What do you want, Claire? If you could design your ideal role, what would it be? Claire didn't hesitate. I want to lead creative development. I want to work directly with clients, pitching ideas that push boundaries. I want to create campaigns that speak to everyone, including people with disabilities who are so often ignored in marketing. Andrew nodded. Then that's what you'll pitch tomorrow. Not to me, I'm already sold, but to the team. Show them what you can do. You make it sound so simple. It's not simple, he admitted, but it is possible, and you've earned the chance to try. The next morning, Claire woke up early, her stomach in knots. Today was the day everything would change at Meridian, and she was both excited and terrified to be part of it. She chose her outfit carefully, a dark green dress that complemented her fair skin with a tailored blazer that made her feel professional and confident. She pulled her dark hair back in a sleek ponytail and applied just enough makeup to brighten her face without looking overdone. Andrew watched her from the doorway of their bedroom. "You look ready to conquer the world." Claire smiled nervously. "I'd settle for conquering one small marketing agency." They drove to Meridian together, but agreed to arrive separately. Andrew would go in first for a private meeting with the current board of directors, who would officially announce the acquisition. Claire would arrive an hour later for the all-staff meeting, where Andrew would introduce himself as the new owner. As Claire sat in her car in the Meridian parking lot, watching the minutes tick by, her phone buzzed with a text from Diane. "Just heard the news. Can't wait to see Samantha's face. We're all rooting for you." Claire smiled, warmed by the support from someone who had been a quiet ally all along. At exactly 10 a.m., Claire wheeled herself through the front doors of Meridian. The receptionist, Amy, looked up in shock. "Claire, what are you doing here?" Samantha said. "I know what Samantha said." Claire cut her off gently. "But I've been invited to the all-staff meeting." Amy looked confused, but didn't try to stop her as Claire made her way to the conference room. She could hear voices inside, Andrew's deep, confident tone standing out among them. Taking a deep breath, Claire knocked on the door, then pushed it open. The room fell silent as all eyes turned to her. Samantha, standing at the front of the room beside Andrew, looked as if she'd seen a ghost. "Ah, Claire," Andrew said smoothly, as if her arrival was the most natural thing in the world. "Right on time. Everyone, for those who don't know her yet, this is Claire Thompson, a marketing specialist who'll be consulting with us during this transition." Mark, sitting near the front, leaned over to whisper something to the person beside him, his eyes darting between Claire and Andrew with dawning realization. "Thompson," Samantha repeated, her voice strained. "You're my wife, yes," Andrew said casually. "But more importantly for our purposes today, she's a talented marketer with intimate knowledge of Meridian's operations. She'll be an invaluable resource as we move forward." Claire wheeled herself to the front of the room, feeling the weight of every gaze. But instead of the pity or dismissal she was used to, she saw something new in many faces: respect, curiosity, even a bit of awe. "Hello, everyone," she said, her voice steady despite her pounding heart. "I'm looking forward to working with all of you in this new chapter for Meridian." As she took her place beside Andrew, Samantha stepped back, her face a mask of forced professionalism that couldn't quite hide her shock and dismay. Diane, sitting in the second row, caught Claire's eye and gave her a discreet thumbs up. "Now," Andrew continued, addressing the room, "as I was saying, Thompson Ventures believes in the potential of Meridian marketing. We see a solid foundation here, but also opportunities for growth and improvement. Over the next few weeks, we'll be evaluating all aspects of the business and making some changes." His gaze swept the room, settling briefly on Samantha and Mark before moving on. "Some of these changes will be structural. Others will involve company culture. All of them will be guided by a simple principle: respect for the talents and contributions of every team member." Claire looked out at the faces of her colleagues, people who had ignored or belittled her for years, and felt a strange mix of vindication and determination. This wasn't about revenge. It was about creating a workplace where everyone could thrive. As Andrew continued outlining his vision for the company, Samantha stood to the side, her arms crossed tightly over her chest. Their eyes met, and for the first time, Claire saw uncertainty, even fear, in her boss's gaze. The tables had truly turned. The days following the acquisition announcement were a whirlwind of activity at Meridian. Andrew set up temporary office space on the executive floor, and Claire found herself in a strange limbo. Not quite an employee again, but definitely not an outsider. On the third morning, Claire arrived early to find Andrew waiting for her by the elevator. "Morning," he greeted her with a quick kiss on the cheek. "Ready for today?" Claire nodded, though her stomach was doing flips. "As ready as I'll ever be." Today was the day Andrew would announce the new company structure, including leadership roles and any staff changes. Everyone at Meridian was on edge, especially Samantha, who had been notably quiet since the acquisition announcement. "Have you made a decision about Samantha?" Claire asked as they rode the elevator up together. Andrew's expression turned serious. "I had a long talk with her yesterday, along with HR. Let's just say she didn't do herself any favors." "What do you mean?" "When confronted with the complaints against her, not just yours but several others, she became defensive, started making excuses, blaming everyone but herself." Andrew shook his head. Not the response of someone willing to change. Claire felt a mix of emotions at this news. She had never wished for Samantha to lose her job, but she couldn't deny the relief at knowing the toxic leadership might be coming to an end. "And Mark?" she asked. Andrew smiled slightly. "Mark has been remarkably quiet lately, almost humble." The elevator doors opened, and they went their separate ways. Andrew to his temporary office, and Claire to the small conference room she'd been using as a workspace. She was surprised to find Diane waiting for her, a cardboard tray with 2 coffee cups in hand. "I thought you might need this," Diane said, offering one of the cups to Claire. "Today's going to be interesting." Claire accepted the coffee gratefully. "Thanks. Have people been talking?" Diane sat down across from her. "Non-stop. There are all kinds of rumors floating around about who's staying, who's going, what changes are coming." She paused. "But mostly, people are talking about you." Claire winced. "Great." "No, it's not bad," Diane assured her. "Many of us are, well, impressed. Not just that you're married to the new owner, though that did surprise everyone, but how you've handled yourself through all this. You've been nothing but professional, even after how you were treated." Claire hadn't expected this. "I'm just trying to do the right thing." "Well, it's noticed and appreciated." Diane hesitated, then added, "I should have spoken up sooner about how Samantha treated you. We all should have." "Why didn't you?" Claire asked, genuinely curious rather than accusatory. Diane sighed. "Fear, mostly. Samantha had a way of making people feel like their jobs were always on the line. And I think some of us didn't want to see what was happening. It's easier to look away than to confront something uncomfortable." Claire nodded in understanding. "I get it. I looked away from it myself for 3 years." "Well, no one's looking away anymore," Diane said with a small smile. As they sipped their coffee, Claire's phone buzzed with a text from Andrew. "Staff meeting at 10. You ready to step into your new role?" Claire took a deep breath. "Ready?" At precisely 10 a.m., all Meridian employees gathered in the largest conference room. The atmosphere was tense with anticipation. Claire positioned her wheelchair near the front, aware of the curious glances from her colleagues. Andrew stood at the head of the table, looking every bit the confident business leader in his tailored suit. "Good morning, everyone," he began. "First, I want to thank you all for your patience during this transition period. Change can be unsettling, but it can also bring new opportunities." He proceeded to outline his vision for Meridian's future, a more collaborative environment, a focus on inclusive marketing campaigns, and an emphasis on recognizing individual contributions. "Now, to the part you're all waiting for," Andrew said with a knowing smile. "The new leadership structure." Claire's heart raced as Andrew announced several promotions and position changes. Diane was named Creative Director, a role she clearly deserved but had been overlooked for under Samantha's leadership. As for the position of CEO, Andrew continued, "I've decided to bring in someone new." A murmur ran through the room. Everyone had assumed Andrew would take that role himself. "I'd like to introduce you to Jennifer Chen." Andrew gestured toward a woman who had been sitting quietly at the back of the room. She stood up and walked to the front, her posture confident, but approachable. Jennifer has over 15 years of experience in marketing leadership, with a particular focus on building inclusive workplace cultures, Andrew explained. She'll be taking over as CEO, effective immediately. Jennifer smiled warmly at the room. I'm excited to work with all of you. From what I've seen so far, Meridian has incredible talent and potential. Claire caught Andrew's eye, and he gave her a subtle nod. They had discussed this decision extensively. Andrew had no intention of running Meridian himself. His other business ventures kept him busy enough, but he had been determined to find a leader who would value diversity and inclusion, not just talk about it. And finally, Andrew said, turning toward Claire, I'd like to announce a new position at Meridian. We're creating a client relations and inclusive marketing division focused on expanding our approach to reach diverse audiences. Claire Thompson will be heading up this division. A ripple of surprise went through the room, followed by a smattering of applause led by Diane. Claire wheeled forward to join Andrew and Jennifer at the front. Thank you, she said simply. I look forward to working with all of you in this new capacity. As the meeting broke up, Claire found herself surrounded by colleagues eager to congratulate her or ask questions about her new role. The change in their behavior was striking. Where once they had avoided her, now they sought her out. Mark hung back, watching from a distance with an unreadable expression. Eventually, he approached her, looking uncomfortable. Claire, he said, his usual cockiness nowhere to be seen. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry for how I treated you before. Claire studied his face, trying to gauge his sincerity. What exactly are you sorry for, Mark? He shifted his weight, clearly unused to apologizing. For the jokes, the comments, for tripping your wheelchair that time. He looked down. It was childish and mean. Claire was silent for a moment, letting him squirm. Yes, it was, she finally agreed. But you have a chance to do better now. Mark nodded. I'd like to, if you'll let me. That's not up to me, Claire said. It's up to you to prove yourself through your actions, not just your words. As Mark walked away, Andrew appeared at Claire's side. Sincere? He asked quietly. Claire shrugged. Time will tell. People can change if they want to badly enough. Speaking of changes, Andrew said, there's one more announcement I didn't make in the meeting. I wanted to tell you privately first. Claire looked up at him curiously. What is it? Samantha's position has been eliminated, effective immediately. She's clearing out her office as we speak. Claire wasn't sure how to feel about this news. Part of her felt vindicated, but another part felt a twinge of sadness for the woman who had made her work life so difficult. It was her choice, Andrew continued, as if reading her thoughts. Jennifer offered her a different role, one where she wouldn't be managing people, but she refused. Said she'd rather leave than take a demotion. Claire nodded, understanding. Samantha's pride would never have allowed her to stay under those circumstances. As they were talking, Jennifer Chen approached them. Claire, do you have a few minutes? I'd love to hear more about your ideas for the new division. Of course, Claire replied, feeling a surge of satisfaction at being asked for her professional opinion by the new CEO. I'll leave you ladies to it, Andrew said with a smile, stepping away. Over the next few weeks, Meridian underwent a transformation. The physical office space was redesigned to be more accessible, with wider pathways between desks and automatic door openers, but the more significant changes were in the company culture. Jennifer instituted regular team meetings where everyone was encouraged to contribute ideas. She created a system where campaign credits were shared openly, ensuring that no one's work went unrecognized, and she made it clear that disrespect of any kind would not be tolerated. Claire threw herself into building her new division. She hired 2 additional team members, both talented marketers who happened to have disabilities, and began reaching out to clients who might be interested in more inclusive advertising campaigns. One morning, about a month after the acquisition, Claire arrived at work to find a small package on her desk. Inside was a framed photograph of her with Andrew, taken years ago at a marketing awards ceremony where Claire had won recognition for a campaign she'd designed at her previous job. A note was attached. Found this while cleaning out some old files. Thought you might want it back. Claire recognized Diane's handwriting and smiled. The photo had sat on her desk when she first joined Meridian, but had mysteriously disappeared after a few weeks. At the time, she'd assumed she'd misplaced it. Now she wondered if Samantha had removed it, perhaps uncomfortable with the reminder of Claire's achievements. Later that day, Claire was presenting a new campaign concept to a potential client, a major retailer looking to reach customers with disabilities. As she spoke confidently about the untapped market potential and showed examples of her inclusive design approach, she caught Jennifer nodding approvingly from the back of the room. The client was visibly impressed. "This is exactly what we've been looking for," the marketing director said. "Someone who understands this audience authentically, not just as a token effort." After the meeting, Jennifer pulled Claire aside. "That was fantastic," she said. "They're definitely going to sign with us." Claire smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. "It feels good to be heard." "Well, get used to it," Jennifer replied, "because your voice is one of the most valuable assets this company has." That evening, as Claire and Andrew drove home together, she found herself reflecting on how much had changed in just a few short months. "Penny for your thoughts?" Andrew asked, glancing over at her. "I was just thinking about where I was a few months ago," Claire said, "dreading going to work every day, feeling invisible, doubting my own abilities." "And now?" Claire smiled. "Now I remember why I loved marketing in the first place. The creativity, the challenge, the satisfaction of connecting with an audience in a meaningful way." "You've earned this, Claire," Andrew said seriously. "All of it. I may have bought the company, but you've proven yourself all on your own." "I know," she replied, and she meant it. The initial discomfort she'd felt about Andrew's intervention had faded as she'd established herself in her new role. Her success wasn't handed to her. It was the result of her talent and hard work finally being recognized. Later that week, Claire received an email that made her pause. It was from Samantha. "Claire, I debated whether to write this, but felt I should. I've accepted a position with another agency across town. Before I start there, I wanted to acknowledge that my treatment of you at Meridian was unprofessional and wrong. I won't make excuses for my behavior. I've had time to reflect on the kind of leader I was, and I didn't like what I saw. I'm working to do better. Congratulations on your new role. From what I hear, you're already making a difference." Samantha Claire read the email twice, surprised by the unexpected apology. She wasn't sure if Samantha had truly changed, or if she was simply covering her bases in a small industry where reputations mattered. Either way, the acknowledgement felt like the closing of a chapter. She typed a brief reply. "Samantha, thank you for your email. I appreciate the acknowledgement and wish you success in your new position." Claire simple, professional, and without lingering resentment. Claire hit send and felt a weight lift from her shoulders, the last remnant of her difficult years under Samantha's leadership. 6 months after the acquisition, Meridian held a company party to celebrate their most successful quarter in years. The office was transformed for the evening, with catering, music, and even a small dance floor. Claire wore a deep blue dress that complemented her eyes, her dark hair loose around her shoulders. As she moved through the room in her wheelchair, colleagues stopped to chat, sharing jokes and stories in a way that would have been unimaginable a year ago. Diane joined her by the refreshment table, looking elegant in a simple black dress. "Quite a change from the last company party," she remarked. Claire nodded, remembering how she'd sat alone in a corner at the previous year's event, ignored by most of her colleagues. "Night and day." "Your division's campaigns have been getting a lot of attention," Diane said. "I heard Jennifer talking about expanding the team." "We could use the help," Claire admitted. "The response has been overwhelming. Turns out there's a huge market of people who want to see themselves represented in advertising. Who knew?" she added with a touch of sarcasm that made Diane laugh. Across the room, Claire caught sight of Andrew deep in conversation with Jennifer. He looked up, met her gaze, and smiled warmly. "You two make quite a team," Diane observed. "We always have," Claire agreed. "But it's nice to finally have a professional life that's as fulfilling as my personal one." As the evening wound down, Andrew joined her, offering his hand. "May I have this dance, Mrs. Thompson?" Claire raised an eyebrow. "You know I can't." "Sure you can," he interrupted gently. He guided her wheelchair to the small dance floor, then sat in a nearby chair so their faces were level. Taking her hands in his, he began to sway in time to the music, creating a dance that worked for both of them. A few colleagues watched with smiles, but most simply continued their conversations, no longer seeing anything unusual about Claire or how she navigated the world. As they moved to the music, Claire thought about how far she had come. From being overlooked and undervalued, she had found her voice and her place. Not because Andrew had swooped in to save her, but because she had finally stood up for herself. "What are you thinking about?" Andrew asked softly. "About how sometimes the hardest thing isn't dealing with other people's limitations," Claire replied. "It's overcoming the limitations we place on ourselves." Andrew squeezed her hands. "You never let your disability limit you. It was other people who tried to do that." "True," Claire acknowledged. "But I let them do it for too long. I accepted less than I deserved because I was afraid to demand more." "And now?" Claire smiled, looking around at the company that had transformed under new leadership, her leadership in part, at the colleagues who now valued her contributions, at the husband who had always seen her strength, even when she doubted it herself. "Now," she said, "I'm exactly where I'm meant to be." The music continued, and Claire Thompson, marketer, wife, woman in a wheelchair, moved to its rhythm, no longer invisible, no longer silent, but fully and completely herself.